the first question that I had come in this week. It says, I'm getting zoomed out. I'm sure you know that feeling. Feels like I'm in a video meeting from morning to night. Surely this can't be it. I actually saw a bit of research this morning that said that apparently there's more of an emotional trigger now on video conference calls than people used to have whenever they were in face-to-face meetings. I don't know how widespread the survey is or the study is, but that there's this sense of needing to be always on, or more of a character, or to present the best self forward in a video setting. Which is funny, because when this all initially happened, there was this belief that we were all going to be able to turn up and be our authentic self a little bit more. But apparently in this study, there's more and more pressure and stress on people now, feeling the need to turn up and be always on. Now, that may well be coupled just with the fact that people are just in Zoom meetings or WebEx or whatever it is too often. I think we're still trying to figure out the choreography of how we meet regularly enough with our team to get stuff done in a remote environment. And so we're sort of overcooking this amount of time, FaceTime that people need. And it can be draining if you're just going from Zoom meeting to Zoom meeting to Zoom meeting with nary a break. You don't even get the opportunity to walk between meeting rooms that you used to get whenever we were in an office. And so I can get that sense. The funny thing is, meetings get a bad rep, and they have always had a bad rep for as long as I've been doing this. People saying things like, well, you should cut your meeting times in half, or, most meetings can be an email. And I actually love meetings. I think meetings are some of the greatest ways to get things done with your team. The problem isn't that meetings in and of themselves are bad things. It's just that we don't know how to have good meetings. Quite frankly, I've been in so many of them where it's just like, why are we here? What are we doing? Give me the nearest paperclip so I can stab myself in the eye. And that comes down to not that meetings in themselves are a bad thing. It's that we just are not very good at putting them together and holding them. And that applies across the board. Very, very few leaders that I meet are really effective meeting facilitators. And here's why I like meetings. If you think about the two main reasons why you would get together, number one, it is because somebody needs to make a decision on something. If you've got a group of people together in a room in a short period of time, you get more feedback, insight, advice, guidance, and support on that idea than you would in any other setting, presuming that you handle it correctly and right. And the second most common reason for having a meeting is one of communication. If you get your folks together in a room, you're not going to have that sustained period of time that you would have in that session over an email and people's concentration. You get the opportunity to communicate out the message, to get whatever feedback it is that you need to ensure that you stack hands and then move on from it. They can be hugely powerful things. But like I said, most of us are not very good at managing our meetings. And so my suggestion, particularly now, is number one, let's not try and replicate the offline online. Meeting online it's just a different beast. And what it actually requires of us is even better meeting facilitation. As a leader, you need to develop the skill of meeting facilitation. How do you plan and hold an effective meeting? And that sounds like absolute boredom to a lot of people. But in the same way that, you've turned up at some people's, let's say, house parties or dinner parties or gatherings, and some of them have been hugely successful and some of them have been less successful, it's because somebody knows how to facilitate that session. And so here is my general suggestion or series of things that you can do to become a better meeting facilitator. Number one, you have to get absolutely crystal clear on the purpose of the meeting. Why are you bringing people together? Just willy-nilly calling up a Zoom call and bringing people in because you've got a great idea is not a good reason to have a meeting, nor is just having a meeting for the sake of it because we've had it every Thursday. So typical example, the Thursday managers meeting. I ask a leader, well, why do you have that meeting? Well, it gives us an opportunity to get together as a management team. Okay. Why? Well, I guess everybody shares what they're working on. Okay, that's great. So it's just an update. Is that what the meeting is? Do you ever have any discussions around goals? Well, yeah, we talk about our goals. Okay, awesome. What if somebody is not hitting their goals for their month? Do you do something there? Well, yeah, we talk about ways in which we can help that particular team member get back on track and provide support and advice and guidance. Okay, awesome. So now you're becoming a lot more clear on the reason for the meeting. So the Thursday managers meeting isn't just to get your managers together. It's to provide an accountability vehicle for your management team in this example. The conversation then goes, okay, so you're clear on that purpose. Is the rest of the team clear on that purpose? Well, probably not. Okay, well, that's going to be your problem number one. The biggest reason why meetings suck is because we just don't have a clearly defined, communicated, understood purpose for it. So if you look across your week and what you've got coming up next week, ask yourself, what is the very specific purpose for us getting together at that time? Why are we doing it? And here's what you need to be careful of. I talked earlier about the two modes of meeting, or the two main reasons. One is somebody needs to make a decision about something, or we need to communicate something out to a group of people. At all possible, try to stick to one of those purposes for your meetings. Because often what happens is we come in and we think it's a communication vehicle, and so everybody's communicating. Then all of a sudden we start going into discussion mode and debate mode about a particular problem or challenge that we're having, and now we're moving into decision making, and it just gets a little gray because we're not clear on whether we're there to make decisions or not. So be really clear: is this a communication meeting? Is this a decision making meeting? If you start from that premise, everything else will follow. Next thing that you want to think about is then, well, what's the absolute least amount of people that we need in the room to achieve our goal, to get to where we need to go to, and really ruthlessly ensure that you're selecting the right people to be there. Often what happens, particularly in larger organizations, is meetings just accrete over time because, you know, somebody decided once that they want a little bit of insight into something that's going on in a corner of the organization that they know nothing about. And so you end up with 30, 40, 50 people in a leadership team meeting, and it just gets too much. Get really, really good at crafting a attendee list that's the shortest amount of people on that list for achieving your overarching objective. Second to that, then once you've got your purpose, is build an agenda that's going to help you achieve your purpose, and then stick to it. You know, we try to, when you set your purpose for your meeting, we then have this tendency to try to shove other agenda items in just because it's this opportunity for us to get people together, and then the purpose starts to dilute over time. It becomes less and less useful. If you get really clear on the purpose for the meeting, you get really ruthless on who's going to be there, and you set an agenda to achieve your purpose, you can be out of there in 10, 15, 20 minutes. It doesn't have to be a 60-minute meeting. But what we do is we just go, well, we want to talk about this thing, don't really know who should be involved, not quite sure what the agenda should be, so let's give it an hour. And what happens is your conversation, you just get a bunch of people in a room, the loudest people talk and dominate the conversation. You get to the end of the 60 minutes and you walk out and you're like, what did we decide? Who's responsible? And when are we going to get back to review this? So that's all the work that you need to do at the front end. Get really clear on the purpose, get clear on the number of people or the specific people that need to be in the room, and then the agenda that's going to achieve your purpose. And your agenda should be geared towards achieving that number one purpose. If it starts to feel like you're cramming other agenda items in there, you've got to have a different vehicle, and that might be an email, or that might be a shorter meeting or a shorter phone conversation. But stop trying to cram everything into a meeting just because you've got everybody there. Next, then, whenever you get into the room, this is where your facilitation has to get to really increase, particularly on virtual calls. You have to facilitate the heck out of that, which means if you've allocated specific amounts of time on the agenda for particular discussion points, you've got to ensure that you use only that amount of time. And so when folks are dominating the conversation, whenever it feels like we're going round in circles, whenever it feels like we're talking about something else, you've got to notice those things and say, hey, let's stay focused on this particular agenda item. Whatever other discussions that's happening out here, let's stick it on a parking lot. Let's deal with it in another meeting. But far too often, I see a leader will walk in with, they've got a great agenda in front of them, and it just gets blown up in the first agenda item because somebody else has a particular interest and they take it off in a direction that's not helpful for the rest of the group. And so just getting good at first of all, non-verbal clues. Hey, I'm just going to stop you there. And then saying, that's a good point. Let's move it to another area of discussion can be hugely helpful. and just stick to the time. So if you've allocated 10 minutes to make a decision on, what your employee recognition program is going to look like next month, and you're getting into the 8th minute and it doesn't look like you're getting to the point where you're about to make a decision, you're going to say, okay, we've got 2 minutes left. Let's make a decision. Everybody share your thoughts. Are you for this or are you against it? Are you going in direction A or are you going in direction B? And then make the actual decision rather than just allowing the conversation to go round and round and round. Here's the reality. Most discussions that happen in leadership meetings, you have a version of it 3 or 4 or 5 times, and it's just not helpful. Get all of the points out in the room. Get all of the ideas. If you want to flip chart it, here are the supporting points for point A. Here are the supporting points for point B. Get everybody to share which one they're in support of. And then when there are no new discussions or arguments, call your vote. What we often get into is just this sense or this thinking of, you're not coming round to my way of thinking, therefore I have to say it again in a slightly different way, maybe slightly louder, and I maybe need to get somebody else to support me with it. And that's not the case. We have heard you. We just don't agree with what you're saying. Okay, that's great. So let's put all of the points up for support of direction A. Let's get them up there. All of the points in support of direction B, get them up there. All right. Any other items that we need to look at? No? Okay, let's put it to a vote. So just get really good at facilitating that time. And then the final thing to think about in terms of managing those meetings, particularly online, is ensure that people don't hide. If you've got 12, 13, 14, 15 people, it's way, way easier in a digital meeting for people to kind of just sit, turn their cameras off and not engage. Call people out, make it part of the agenda that you want to hear from at least everybody once on that call. And then final bonus tip, be ruthless on the next action. What did we agree specifically? Who's responsible? What are they going to do? By when? How will we hold them accountable? When are we going to come back to review? So that you don't just turn off the camera and go, hey, that was a really good meeting, but I have no idea what we just agreed.